Okay, we can get started. So, hello and welcome to everyone. My name is Tenzin Namjong. I'm very happy to be here for this uh, introductory series, Be Your Own Therapist, hosted by Thupten Norbuling. So, thank you to Shela, and yeah, very nice to be here. It's my first time to be invited to do a program at Thupten Norbuling, and I know they have a quite extensive online program as well as a lot of sessions in person as well. So just to introduce a little bit about myself, I don't like talking about myself, but in any case, I am here in, well, I was originally born in the US in Hawaii, and now I've been living here at Sarajay Monastery in South India, where it's, well, two things. It's a little bit dark here. So one, we have a power outage, and two, it's 6:30 in the morning, so it's not quite quite bright. But in any case, I think you can see me well enough, right? And yeah, I've been studying here since 2007. So what does that make it? You do the math, 16, 17 years. And in any case, with all this deep philosophy, we're going to just go back to the basics. And I was told that these next 4 weeks, we're going to try to have a quite more practical application of the Dharma. And so also leaving a lot of time for your questions. So in this hour session, I want to talk for about 40 minutes, and then yeah, leave quite a lot of time for your questions, because that that is important to address actually what's on your mind and what your needs are. So with that, I'm going to do a little. I should have done this at first. Oh, could you enable screen sharing, please?
It's done.
Okay. I should have did this. Oops. No. Okay, I've just added 2 slides. I don't want them. Okay. In any case, okay. I should have had that up at first. So welcome to Be Your Own Therapist, organized by the good people at Thupten Norbuling. I'm Tenzin Namjong, and yeah, actually we can stop that. Because at first, what I wanted to do with everyone here on the call and those who might be watching this later is we just take a moment and sort of reflect on what are we doing here? Why did you sign up for this course? Why did you take time out of your busy schedule to attend this lecture, these series of lectures? So yeah, let's take a moment and consider that. Now, it's a relatively small group, intimate group. So I think we have time if someone is feeling less shy and you want to share, then that's okay. Okay, I see Scarlett.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I think I'm here because for me, it's wanting to learn practical wisdom to implement in my daily, struggles with just life like everybody else. I think I just want better tools on how to handle thoughts, emotions, disturbances that come, insecurities that come. That's kind of why I'm here.
Great, thank you. So, there is this technique that's employed in psychology, but yeah, we can do here. And that's like for every sort of question you're asked, then you ask why to that one, right? So we ask why did we come here today? And then it's to learn practical techniques to deal with the everyday struggles. So then the question becomes, why do you want more techniques to deal with the everyday struggles, right? You wanna go one step further?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead. So why then?
Oh, you're asking me, do you want
Yes.
me to, okay. I
Yes.
think I want to go one step further because um just going through a lot of insecurities and learning how to trust, I think, and just have better coping mechanisms for like when insecurity arises, how you deal with it, or when fear arises, how you deal with it. Yeah.
Okay. And so then the question becomes, why then do you want more coping mechanisms to deal with these insecurities?
Because I don't think that learned I've learned sort of like I've listened to a lot of Dharma, but I don't feel like I'm equipped in my toolbox with strategies. I've listened to a lot of talks. I think I've listened to a lot of more philosophical talks, but I think for me, I want to now, okay, apply it to my everyday life because it's not just me that has these, emotions. Like we all as humans face them. So there's nothing, special about me to ask for support and like strategies, but I'm here to help myself.
Okay.
Did I answer that question or still I didn't answer it?
Well, no. So usually what I've heard is, in this type of practice, you actually go down like 7 levels of why, and then you might arrive at something quite um like, for lack of a better word, meaty. But in any case, I don't want to put you on the spot, but all of
No.
us, we should be thinking about this. So especially within the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, probably if you've attended more lectures in the past, always at the beginning, there's this practice of setting the motivation. So sort of reflecting on why are we doing this and trying to generate as kind of vast a motivation as possible, right? So I'll let you off the hot seat, but thank you for your courage in sharing with all of us. Yeah, that's great.
Sure.
Does anyone else want to share? Susan.
Hi, well, it's a lot of what Scarlett said, but if I were to really scope it out, like, what is it I really want? I want to feel better. And I guess that's a Theravada motivation. But on the other hand, I can't feel better unless in my interactions with others, our interaction is making them feel better too. It's uplifting. And I work with a lot of students and I want to carry that to them. I want it to be very uplifting for them and for myself and with people whom I interact with, because the world is a very hard place these days. It's scary, it's stressful, and it's hard to mentally cope with sometimes. And so I'm just reaching for more strategies, more grounding in what it means to, how do we feel better? How do we feel more stable? How do we feel more enabled to help others and to help ourselves? That's why I'm here. And I have done on and off a lot of psychological counseling through the years. And it helps to different degrees. And this is very grounded in my spirituality. And so that's important to me to view it from that basis.
Great. But let me see if I heard you correctly. When you said you want to feel better, and then did you say that's a terrible motivation?
No, I didn't say
Oh,
that.
okay, good.
No, I said, I thought, maybe I mispronounced it too. I said I thought it was a Theravada
Oh,
motivation, as
Theravada.
opposed,
Sorry.
yeah,
Okay.
self-centered motivation. And it is self-centered. I truly do want to feel better, but I do recognize that if I make others around me feel badly, I cannot. I've done it. I know from experience, so yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. I heard I thought I heard terrible motivation and no. So I wanted to just put the brakes on that. Okay. Theravada. Yes. Okay. So thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's beautiful. And wanting to feel better, we can dispel that. I'm glad I misheard it, but it's not a terrible motivation. That's actually the kind of okay. Before I jump into that, is there anyone else that wants to share?
I can share briefly.
Great.
I actually have a background in counseling. I'm not working in it presently, but I am a licensed therapist. So I'm familiar with, psychology and whatnot. And for me, I still feel like something's been missing. So I'm really new to Buddhism. And in the short kind of weeks and months that I've been here, I feel like grounding what I know in, I don't even know how to describe it, but in this more meaningful field, things are falling together. Things are coming together in a different way than when it was just kind of counseling by itself. So I don't know if it's meaning or purpose or just gaining some clarity. I do see that there's a lot of overlap, but I feel like I need both kind of counseling and the direction of Buddhism to have things make more sense. The material world by itself kind of hasn't been doing it for me. Like I can't find satisfaction. I'm not finding happiness in it. And I'm like, okay, what's missing? And so I think that's why I'm here, to try to figure out how to bring it together, how to, I don't know, live more meaningfully, more intentionally, and I don't know, to try to find some kind of happiness beyond just the material. Thank you.
Terrific. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. So do we want to go 5 for 5 on the session? No pressure. If you want to share, you can share. If you don't want to share, it's also okay. Michael.
Yeah.
Hi.
I'll tell you, I had not planned on being here tonight, but I had some extra time and I thought, let me listen. I looked you up online and I listened to some of your Lama meditations.
Ooh.
And yeah, no, and I thought, because some people who teach this class and pardon me, I hope I don't offend you, Claudia, are very psychology, right? And they kind of, talk about the whole background thing and my relationship with my mother and my unmet needs and all those things. And I'm a pretty insensitive person. And so I don't care about much of that stuff. Shayla's laughing because Shayla knows me very well. I'm somebody who says it doesn't matter for me, by and large, it doesn't matter how I got here. It's where do I go from here? But what I will say is that my own insensitivity to allowing people to just speak their truth and not trying to and doing everything I can to not take it personally and generally being successful at that means that I tend to blurt stuff out sometimes or just say it in unskillful ways. Scarlett was on a class last night and she was saying something about not being skillful in my words, right? And so I don't want to say insensitive, but most people would say it's insensitive, but I like to think of it as unskillful. And if I was skillful, my words would come out more sensitive. And so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a way to go forward and to choose my actions, the actions of my body, speech, and mind more skillfully.
So that leads to the question, right? Why then do you want your actions of body, speech, and mind to be more skillful?
That's an easy one for me.
Yeah.
Because you know, and you did this in class tonight, and you did it in every one of your meditations, and it stood out for me, is that you start with taking refuge. You then go to generating bodhicitta and clarifying the reason that I want to do this, and the reason that I want to do this is for other people, right? Yes, I do it for myself, but the reason I want to do it in the Mahayana tradition is for others, right? So I can reach Buddhahood to bring everybody else along.
Wow. That's great. Yes. Shella, you can just be the facilitator, technical support, or you can actively participate. An answer for coming here tonight. Okay. Because an answer for coming here tonight is you're asked to help with the Zoom. That's and here our power's gone back on.
Oh, good.
I spoke too soon. I spoke too soon. It's off again. But yeah, if you
Maybe it will
wish,
definitely make your patience stronger. Yes. So I like this series because it's never the same. I like that I am learning something new each week because I have a long way to go before I'm in a place where yeah, I like the tools. I like how I can integrate them into my life. Yeah, that's about it.
okay. And you're asked to host the Zoom session, so that's okay. Anyway, welcome and thank you to everyone. So yeah, since we have a smaller group, then we have time for these interactions. I think it's quite important, so sometimes I don't know if any of you have been to Dharamsala, but there's a very big meditation center, Tushita, some of you might have heard of. And there, intro courses, these days, it's great. There's 120, 130 people. And always on the first day, I like to go through this exercise. But there, with 130 people, you can't really go individually. So thank you for your participation. So, some of the themes that came out bring me into my next thing that I wanted to say, which basically is to plagiarize His Holiness the Dalai Lama when he gives introduction talks, and that is to sort of reflect on the starting point of Buddhism. I think it's important to keep in mind that the starting point of Buddhism isn't the Buddha, but it is grounded in our own experience. And so, some of the themes that came out in your answers were you've been trying to find happiness in this world, which is difficult, and you might have been trying different things, and thus far haven't really found the happiness, well-being, peace that we're really seeking. And what made me very nervous when I thought I heard that Susan said, "Oh, I want to feel better," and that's a terrible motivation. That is definitely not the case. And this fundamental wish that we have to be happy and not suffer is present. It's natural in all of us. Actually, in all the sentient beings have this wish, not to suffer and to be happy. And we're not trying to get rid of that. We're actually trying to fulfill this wish, right? And so then when we reflect deeper on our lives, and I think my hypothesis is we've all done this to a certain extent, which is in part why we've come here today. But when we really think back, one hypothesis would be that everything that we've ever done actually has been in this kind of quest to avoid suffering and to gain happiness. So even right when we were born, then crying as a baby, we wanted food or our diaper changed or our mother's embrace, right? There is some state of suffering. And because we didn't have access to, vocalize what our needs were, we just cried out and hoped that someone would come and take care of us, right? Then when we went to school, either if we were studious and diligent and did our homework, or we played, we were wanting happiness or wanting to avoid suffering. Then when we got older and started to look for work and make money, gain possessions, or build our social circle, find a romantic partner, all these things, wanting happiness and not wanting to suffer. And then even things that we normally consider to be sort of opposing kind of actions, either, exercising, right? Waking up very, really early to go on a run or go to the gym, or, staying up late at night to party or, binge watch, movies or something. Of course, there is there can be a difference in the type of happiness that we're seeking. So there is this kind of short-term kind of boost that we get from, partying or watching a movie or entertainment, something like this. Or there's a sort of longer-term goal we have with, training for something or writing a book or accomplishing something in our career that's going to take a sustained amount of effort for a long period of time. But essentially, these are both the couch potato and the triathlon athlete. They're wanting happiness and not wanting to suffer. Of course, the triathlete can endure some short-term, like no pain, no gain, right? So some short-term, like physical hardship to gain a kind of more lasting sense of accomplishment. But everyone is doing the same thing, you know. Even those actions that we consider, you know, or we'll later come to consider as negative, like cheating on our partners or stealing or you know, all the non-virtues, actually is you know, rooted in this same wish for happiness, right? We might cheat on our partner because we think that action is going to bring some it could be temporary pleasure, it could be whatever it is, but there's some hole that we're trying to fill even by doing these negative actions. Okay, so consider that. So what I wanted to say, right, and this is true anytime when you study Buddhism or Dharma, the approach should be very non-dogmatic, right? So anything I'm saying, anything you hear from other teachers, even His Holiness the Dalai Lama himself, we take it on as a hypothesis and use it for reflection. Because as we'll see, you know, it's not so much about getting to the right answer, right? But being able to integrate whatever kind of learnings are there in our own lives. And that is best done by relating the teachings to our own experience. And therefore, when I say take that on as hypothesis, you know, even after this session is done, you can think about it as you go through your day and see, do these words sort of ring true for you? So now, okay, so that was the first hypothesis. We all want happiness and we don't want to suffer, and that all of our actions are going to that goal. Okay. Then the next thing we should consider is what kind of strategies have we been employing thus far to get that happiness and to avoid suffering, right? And so some of you, I'm very happy that you've already attended many lectures and listened to many teachings, maybe read a lot of books and already have some sort of practice. But especially if we think back before we met Dharma, right? What do we do? How are we trying to get happiness? Or even looking in the world, those who haven't met Dharma, right? Well, what's the formula for happiness that in the kind of like in the world? Get more money, get more possessions, get a circle of friends, find, you know, that perfect partner, get a good reputation, have many followers on social media, have a nice vacation, you know, save up money, invest that money so you can retire, right? Oh, and yes, exercise, work out. So, you know, you look good, which will help you maybe attract that special partner. Something like this. So I don't want to dismiss all that, but generally speaking, before we meet Dharma, a lot of our actions, our activities, our efforts are focused on the external, right? Trying to accumulate, trying to get people to like us, trying to get a good reputation, get a promotion. So that's, again, non-judgmental, but then we have to see, how has that strategy been working for us, right? And here, I like to say this, but here's your first Tibetan lesson, right? You know, in Tibetan, they don't really talk about, or they don't use the word Buddhist or non-Buddhist, right? So much, but they use the word for a Tibetan. Sorry, for a Buddhist, they use the word nangpa, and for a non-Buddhist, chiropa. Have you heard that before? Okay, good. It's very, very tasty for me. So chiropa, so chiro is outside, and then pa at the end of something, it's kind of like how er functions in English, right? So we have drive and driver, right? Right. So the driver is the one who drives, right? Baker is the one who bakes. So chiro, outside, pa is like outsider. And that's opposed to the Buddhists, they call nangpa. Nang is inside. Pa is like inner, like we can say, I don't know, inner being or inner one. And so the point is here, the chiropa, most of the energy, most of the efforts are directed on the outside, trying to manipulate, or maybe not manipulate, but even change or arrange the outside world to bring us happiness, to help us avoid suffering, right? And this is what we've been doing, right? Oh, it's so hot. Okay, what do? Oh, I turn on the AC, or all of our activities directed toward the outside. Okay, and the chiropa is doing that. That's their main strategy. Whereas the nangpa, it is directed on the inner. Okay, so now it's very important. That doesn't mean that even as a Buddhist, if it's hot, we don't turn on the AC, or it's just how do you say? We're not trying to deny the role of the external world for our well-being. Okay, it does play a role, and given a choice, I'd rather have a comfortable bed. I'd rather be in a nice climate. I'd rather have nice tasting food. I'd rather have people like me and say nice things about me, for sure. But the point is, since we want happiness and we don't want to suffer, we have to investigate these different levels of happiness and sort of come to understand which is the one that's going to be the best, the most stable, the most long lasting, right? So we even do this when we're buying some kind of product, right? If you're like me, right? When we go on Amazon, we read the reviews, right? We see what the other customers who have bought this product, what they think. And they'll, that can lead to some insight, right? And then we get the ones that, a lot of bad reviews. This product is, it broke after 3 months. Then we'll say, oh no, I don't want that one, right? So similarly, right? It's as if we're consumers, and we're trying to decide, right? Not where we put our money. That's just one part of it, but where we put our time, where we put our energy, where we put our lives, right? In trying to, purchase or obtain that happiness. And so then we have to be a kind of smart shopper and see, this course of action, is it going to lead to the kind of happiness, well-being that I've been seeking? And my hypothesis is why someone comes into Dharma is because they have seen that their previous strategies to gain happiness and avoid suffering have been inadequate. Not that they're bad, but inadequate, right? So, what do you think? Is that resonating with you? You can just nod your head. Okay. So, a few more minutes. I made some slides. All I got to is the cover slide. So let me go through a few more things, and then I'll open up for questions. So this is the goal, right? So you can imagine His Holiness the Dalai Lama. he taught so many times around the world, and often at the end there's a question and answer. And so this question, right? What is the meaning of life? And so His Holiness once responded, the meaning of life is happiness. The hard question is not what is the meaning of life? That is an easy question. No, the hard question is what makes happiness? Is it money, big house, accomplishment, friends, or compassion and a good heart? So this is the question that all human beings must try to answer. What makes true happiness? Okay. So this is why I got so nervous when I thought, feeling better, that's not a terrible motivation. No, that is the essential project that we all have. We're trying to find out how we can feel better, but not just how we can feel better, yes, but what strategy is going to make us feel the best, right? We want the best, right? So although that has been our motivation throughout our lives, here's some very, very beautiful statement from Shantideva. I think many of you have heard of this great Indian master. And so he says that, although wishing to be rid of misery, they run toward misery itself. Although wishing to have happiness like an enemy, they ignorantly destroy it. So now who is they? They is us, actually, right? And so, then he continues, even those who wish to obtain happiness and overcome suffering will wander with no aim if they do not comprehend the secret of the mind, the principal Dharma. Okay. So here again, those who wish to obtain happiness and overcome suffering, that's us, right? So although we want this, if we do not comprehend the secret of the mind, we'll wander with no aim, means we'll not obtain our goal. Okay. So then we see why, in the Dharma and Buddhism, there's this tremendous emphasis on the mind. Okay. So how then we obtain happiness in Buddhism, right? So we see the statement by Nagarjuna, enthused by great compassion, you expounded the sublime truth in order to eliminate all wrong views. To you, Gautam Buddha, I pay homage. Okay, so I think many of you have heard of Nagarjuna. So he wrote a very famous text, and in that he praises the Buddha in this way. So great compassion, I think many of you also have heard of, is this wish that others be free from suffering. Okay, so the Buddha was enthused or motivated by wanting all sentient beings to be free from suffering. But even with that motivation, then he did a similar exercise, trying to understand what actually causes suffering, right? And therefore, in his analysis, in his inquiry, he saw that actually the root of all of our suffering was these wrong views, distorted, mistaken ways of thinking, right? And therefore, to overcome these wrong views, then taught Dharma, which then can be sort of characterized on these two levels of truth. So those of you who have heard of the two truths, conventional truth and ultimate truth, right? We have a lot of confusion, a lot of distorted ways of thinking, but basically they can be summed up on these two levels, right? And the conventional level of truth is to understand how this is basically the notion of karma, that what we experience in life are the ripening effects of the actions that we've done in the past. Okay. And from doing negative actions that harm others, then that sets up the cause for us to then be harmed in the future. And by engaging in wholesome actions with a good motivation, so, practicing charity or whatever kind of good deeds we do in the world, those create the causes for us to experience happiness in the future. Which is why this next verse here is probably the most famous verse in all of Buddha Dharma. And this verse is also, it's from the Dhammapada, which is a text that's normally associated with the Theravada tradition. Yeah. So do not commit any unwholesome actions. Engage in perfect wholesome actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of Buddha. So again, the Buddha taught those first two is talking about this notion of karma. And then when we were saying that what determines whether our actions are wholesome or unwholesome, virtuous or non-virtuous, is actually the motivation with which we undertake the action. Then we see how then to subdue the mind means when a negative thought arises, to be able to deal with it, apply some sort of antidote so that it lessens in its strength. And eventually we'll come to a point when we say thoroughly subdue means we'll be able to abandon these unwholesome ways of thinking, these negative sort of emotions at their root. And so all the teachings of Buddha were designed or given for this purpose. So then, when we talk about, okay, why the mind is emphasized, it's these two levels, right? These two levels of truth, right? We said the conventional level is about karma. So anyway, His Holiness says, there are two reasons why it's important to understand the nature of the mind. One is because there's an intimate connection between mind and karma, right? So those negative minds then impel us to do negative actions, which then ripen as suffering in our lives. And then the other is our state of mind, even now in this moment, plays a crucial role in our experience of happiness and suffering. Okay, so yeah, I think we have all experienced this, right? That even how we interpret the things that happen to us in the world, well, that can, how do you say, determine our experience in that moment. We're almost out of time. So I'll just say a very quick thing. For example, I know in many parts of the world, right, there's been a lot of heat waves, right? So you can imagine you're feeling that heat and you don't have AC, and that experience of heat, you can think about in a certain way. And then not only do you have the suffering of the heat, but you kind of create further suffering by thinking about maybe you can get very depressed about the state of the environment and climate change and think, wow, there's all these heat waves all over the world. Why isn't my government doing anything about it? Why are we letting these oil companies pollute? Blah blah blah, right? And then you're creating more and more of a story. So not only do you have the physical suffering of heat, but you have the mental suffering of coming from how you're thinking about your situation. On the other hand, there are many people right now in the world that go to a sauna, and maybe they're even paying money to be in a room that's very hot. And then when they're experiencing that heat, they're thinking, okay, yes, I'm getting rid of the toxins, right? This is good for my health. This is good for my, blood pressure and well-being. And then, those two people, the sort of physical condition of being in in a place that's hot is the same, but because they're thinking about it in a different way, one is experiencing it in a way of suffering, and the other is experiencing it as something being very good that they'll even pay money to experience. Okay. Anyway, this is a nice two stanzas again from the Dhammapada about mind and karma, basically by saying, when we speak with a good motivation, then happiness follows, like a shadow follows the body. On the other hand, when we speak with a bad motivation, then afterwards suffering arises. So anyway, this is the scriptural evidence of karma. So we don't have to get into that too much. I want to leave time for questions. But I'll just leave it with this. A beautiful imagery from Shantideva. So there he asks us to reflect, where could I possibly find enough leather with which to cover the surface of the earth? Having leather just on the soles of my shoes is equivalent to covering the earth with it. Okay. You understand? So, outside there's many, thorns, stones. It's uncomfortable. We don't want to experience that suffering. So we have two solutions. We could either cover the surface of the earth with leather so that wherever we walk, we don't step on stones, or we can wear sandals or shoes, right? So similarly, unruly sentient beings are like space, and all of them cannot be possibly overcome. But if I overcome the mind of anger alone, that would be equivalent to vanquishing all those foes. You see? So, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, in Root Institute, the FPMT Center in Bodh Gaya, they have a car that Rinpoche used to travel in, and on that they painted. They didn't have this as a bumper sticker yet, but they just painted it on the back. And Rinpoche said, no anger, no enemy. No anger, no enemy. Which is a way of sort of encapsulating this statement by Shantideva, right? So even, right, normally we think, okay, someone criticizes me, therefore they're my enemy. But if we subdue our mind of anger, then no matter what someone says to us, we won't get angry, right? So here with the analogy of the sandals, right? No way can we cover the whole earth with leather. And yeah, nor do we want to. So similarly, right? If our mind is subdued, then we then are able to attain a kind of sense of well-being that's not dependent on others, not dependent on external factors, not dependent on everyone praising us or liking us and therefore in the Amazon review of this kind of happiness, it gets the 5 stars. because it's not dependent on others. It's not dependent on others means, right? Why is that a better situation? Because we can't control what others are doing, right? We can't control what people say to us. We can't control our external circumstances. And even if we can exert some influence, well, this is going to come into our next like big concept within Buddhism. This notion of impermanence means everything, even if we are successful in, accumulating wealth, well, the stock market crashes, or whatever might happen, and we can lose it, right? These things are impermanence. So to attain a kind of sense of well-being and happiness based on our own mind and the transforming and development of that will lead to a stable and long-lasting sense of well-being. So that is why we then, right, be your own therapist means to learn about these tools, techniques, practices whereby we can transform the mind and deal with the kind of internal emotional world that comes up in our daily lives. And so that's what we'll be doing for the rest of our sessions together. Okay, so we have a little bit of time left, sorry, but if there are any questions, we can address those now. Susan, yes.
Well, I was thinking that while what we need to do is find happiness through subduing our mind and following the path as best we can, the Dharma. It works a lot better if we have shelter and safety. It's extremely hard to function in the world without that. It's possible. People could live out in the field or in a tent somewhere, but in the cities, it doesn't work out well. We could see in San Francisco, a lot of people are homeless there and they're taking fentanyl and really bad drugs and living on the streets. And even if you were homeless there and lived on the street and didn't succumb to drugs or tried not to succumb to negative thinking, those particular material circumstances would really make it difficult not to engage in negative thinking. Do you see what I mean? You're hearing this madness around you all the time. If you're living in a tent on the street, you're hearing it around you. You're seeing the people in these abject conditions suffering. It would be hard. It seems like there's certain material. We have to have enough food just to stay alive. We have to have some level of safety, I think. But what do you think?
For sure. Yes. So yeah. I tried to make this point that there is some level of kind of material well-being that's needed. That is for sure, right? And when if you've ever received teachings on the so-called precious human rebirth, right, which talks about like the type of life that will enable us to make utmost progress on the path of Dharma, there is some level of material wealth and well-being that we need, and that is for sure. But I will say, it's a bit interesting because even today in this day and age, right? Okay. The Buddha, right, was born as a prince, right? And he left that life behind, cut off his hair, and practiced in the forest for many years. And I mean, even today, when you go to the Theravadan countries, they do the alms round, and they accept what is given to them for food, right? So, although in general, I agree, and even for the monks, there's the so-called four requisites of shelter, clothing, lodging, and medicine, right? And so, in general, a fully ordained monk traditionally should only have 13 possessions that's allowed to them. But among that is the begging bowl, the robes, some medicine, and so forth. Even today in the Theravada tradition, the so-called forest tradition, you might have heard of. So those monks, when they start off their practice, they wander in the forest. They have a kind of hammock that they use to sleep. They have an umbrella to protect them from the elements, but they just wander in the forest for 5 years. First 5 years of their ordination. They only accept for food, they bring their begging bowls and they go on the alms round. And what they are able to receive, that's what they eat. Okay. So this is a very nice practice, I think. And I think, for many of us, even in the West, there's been this minimalism movement that's coming up. So in any case, we're a bit out of time. So I'll just say that, yes, in general, we do need food, we do need clothing. But the point is, and we've probably seen this, when we just got out of getting our first apartment, maybe all we can afford is a studio, right? And then we're like, oh no, I need a 1 bedroom, and then no, I want a house, and then I want this, right? So the normal tendency is, when we're not satisfied with what we have, we're always wanting more and more, right? And similarly, yes, we do need to eat, but we can feed ourselves very simply with, like, rice and beans for, I don't know how many dollars that is, or we can go to a $100 restaurant, right? So anyway, the thing with samsaric pleasures isn't so much that they're bad in themselves, but many times it's just very time consuming, right? It's very time consuming. So if we are content with little, life becomes a lot easier, a lot less upkeep. And that gives us more time then to practice. Okay, Scarlett, so I see your hand is raised. However, we are out of time because I'm actually I'm teaching another session for the Ocean of Compassion Center and Land of Medicine Buddha that's starting in 1 minute. So save your question, write it down, and we will address it next week, okay? So thank you, all of you, for attending. I do have to go. It just turned time when I have to log in.